So we all gathered here, of course, to talk about finding hard to get participants. And I'm already mentioned 3 times, super excited to welcome Reto. Today, he's a co-founder and CEO of TestingTime. And it's a tool to recruit participants for user testing or other user research methods. But now the stage is yours, Reto. And of course, everyone, enjoy the meetup. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat, or we will have a short Q&A session afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. Hello, everyone. It's very nice to be here. And I'm going to share my screen. 1 sec. So I think you should see me now, and I'm going into the super. Thank you very much. And I need to pin myself. For some reason, it lost my setting. Cool. So I know Condens for quite a while, and I love what you guys do. And that's even more an honor to be here to kind of work together on this webinar and to talk about a topic which is sort of daily life on my side, where we have the expertise. How to find hard to get participants. That's my talk today. A few words first about TestingTime. It's a test user recruitment platform. So in the old days, that's what you did it yourself, or you went to some field agency, and we digitalized this whole process. Sometimes we call it the Uber for test users. This is us, team. We are based in Zurich. We started in 2015 and are now around 25 people and have offices in Germany and the UK. This is me here, and it's really a fun team, still a good startup spirit. And myself, my background is originally computer science, and then I studied human-computer interaction design. That's where I discovered the need for such a platform, because it was all around user-centered design. I was like, well, where do you get those users from? It was very hard, and then you skip user research, and that wasn't the idea. So that's also when I started in 2015, it really took off quite fast. And you also see here in this screen, we live and we eat our own dog food. So we do really user test a lot, we prototype a lot, and we apply a lot of these things. Like 1.5 years ago, we got acquired by Norstat. It's a Norwegian or a Nordic data collection company. They do a bit the same thing, but more for market research and more for quantitative study, where we really focus on UX researchers, mostly qualitative studies. So, but we also do quant recruitments. But we believe this is a great fit, and they have a huge footprint. So we are now in 7 countries. Together we launched TestingTime in the Netherlands and Sweden, and there are overall 15 countries we can tackle, but that's sort of our scope. And we recruit thousands of test users every month through our platform. And so we have a great understanding what's hot, what's not, what's easy, what's difficult. And that's why I believe it's a great moment to kind of talk about something which is not always easy to do. There's this, we call it hard to get participants, and let me kind of define it. For some of you, it's probably clear, but how we look at it, a hard to get participant in general terms, or if you use market research lingo, it has a low incidence rate. That means there aren't many, let's say the incidence rate is 1%. It's 1 out of 100 people in the population fits that criteria. And or if it's a low incident and they are very hard to schedule because they are super busy, or they live in a very a tricky location. Sometimes it's just lack of motivation, or they have some privacy issues. They're very sensitive and they just don't want to participate in any studies. Or sometimes it's just the practical issues, like you have a disability, you're immobile and you cannot go anywhere, or you don't even have access easily to a computer to remotely participate. So there are like a lot of these reasons, but those are some of the top ones, which makes it really hard to get people into studies to research them. And these are like everyone else, they're humans and users of many products and services, which we need to understand to build products they love. When we prepare the talk, I work closely with the Dutch team. They do a lot of qualitative qual recruitments as well, and we can exchange like, what was your funniest profile ever? And long time ago, we literally once had to recruit male pole dancers. I mean, a hobby. They wanted to see whether this could be sport for the male population. Was kind of hard. And in Amsterdam, they had to find 100 Chinese women to come into the studio to do a 10-minute dry hair and blow the dry hair. That's apparently some Chinese thing that they use a hair dryer to blow the dry hair. And it was for Philips and they observed that. So it was also kind of a funny study. And you cannot believe, like, every day you get inquiries, crazy things where even us, we have to say this is it's impossible, or we try to solve it with partners. But today I'm going to show you different approaches and how you can tackle those problems or work with the right partner to find the participants you need. Why does the topic matter? You know, I said before, low incidence rates, so there are not always many. It was hard to get people in the population, so why should you care? But that's the wrong thinking. But I come to that in a minute. I kind of thought this is a nice way to explain it. That's what I see being in this business since now 7-8 years. I remember back in the days, the UX maturity, this is from the Nielsen Norman group, and I kind of like it, how this evolved over the years. And I remember the days where you had to literally explain people why you should do user testing or user research. Sort of, you were very much in the 1 and 2 stage, so either they didn't do it or very limited. And in basically almost every year, kind of the industry evolved one stage. But if I now look at what kind of users were ordered for our platform by our customers, that kind of shows me what kind of people were researched for. And so I overlaid this green bar, and you see I kind of the green intensifies. That means they do more and more research, but it was clearly, like, for many years, mostly the B2C, the consumer profiles, because that's sort of where everyone started to do it. That's the obvious case. It's the mass case. But the more I see companies evolve and increase their UX maturity, the more they start to research in sort of, it started with B2B, but then it goes even further to niche profiles like accessibility topics, etc. Yeah, I mean, the obvious ones are like the telecom or insurances. They have always private customers and company customers. And so for them, I see a heavy growth now on this B2B side. But for me, it's also a sign they really evolved in their UX maturity. But there are also other reasons. I mean, if you look at the diversity topics, race, gender, sexual orientation, social class, age, etc., all these things impact the way people experience products and services. There's no one size fits it all anymore. And a modern, inclusive company has to really include all these aspects and all these diverse user groups into their research. And even like if you are an attendee of a World Usability Day every year, great conference to create awareness. 2 years ago, or not even 2 years ago, the theme was a design of our online world, trust, ethics, and integrity. Even there, it was like a lot about inclusiveness, and I like that also, that they talked about it. Here, a few examples. I don't know, did you know that? And I just Googled this today again. In Europe, every fourth person suffers from some disability. I mean, it doesn't mean these people cannot walk or are immobile. It's more like can be visual impairment, hearing impairment, whatever. There's so many impairment types, but every fourth person, or in Europe, every fifth person has a migration background. So they don't necessarily understand the local culture as deep as local people, or have a different language, and all these things. Or there is the law, like governmental companies are obliged to implement accessibility rules, or even more like today as a brand, you have to support diversity, otherwise customers walk away. And there are some recent examples where they really stood up for diversity, like, in the US, the Disney, and all these cases. So it's really important to be inclusive, which also means you research across the scope. Now, enough of motivational talk, why you should do this and why it's your responsibility as a user researcher. But how now to come to the core of the topic, how to find and even engage, because finding is one part, but then get them to engage, and maybe several times of these hard to get participants. I explain this by examples. I talk about two approaches. One is, I call this like the grassroots approach for one-off studies. That means you have like a unique project, or you have one hypothesis, which is something you need to research, but it's not something you need to do ongoing. And two typical examples. The first one is again from the Netherlands, and it's again about Chinese people, and they love Van Gogh. And so a museum, a Van Gogh museum in Amsterdam, wanted to test a 3D version of the art. And so they wanted to user test this, and they needed quite fast 150 Chinese tourists. And so you don't have that in your regular panel, or they didn't have that. So they had to go beyond their own panel and doing the standard recruitment. And what they did is they worked with a partner. It was actually a tour guide, which organizes tours for Chinese. And they kind of turned this into an incentive in a way. It's like added it in the tour program, picked the people up at the airport and drove directly to this Van Gogh show or art display. And they loved it. They didn't have to pay them anything. For them, it was like part of the experience to be a tourist. And problem solved. They paid, of course, the tour guide to handle all this, but the museum got the participants, and the study was successfully done. Another typical case is, and we have that a lot, you need some decision maker, entrepreneur, C-level. This case was a beer brand. They wanted to learn, like, what do people, C-level people, kind of drink, and what drives them in a bar and whatever. So again, these people, they don't have time, they don't have really a motivation to come and participate. And this was about the on-site study. So here we organized a rooftop event. So you pick a really nice location, you offer them networking opportunities, and the incentive was really free drinks, free food. And that kind of triggers people because these are all a lot driven by networking, by exclusive things, access to exclusive things, and that also helps to kind of bring the people to the study. And also here, outside the standard panel with a screener recruitment, but also so if you kind of summarize this, I would say this is sort of a playbook you could use. How you approach this. First, you need to understand the target group. When you get a request in order, then you need to understand where these people hang out, what makes them tick, what motivates them. You need to kind of use their language so you don't feel like someone from outside their thing when you approach them. And you have to make it really easy to participate. I will also talk a bit about this later. And here, once they have had a good experience, try to reuse them. I know it's against some of the user research principles because they develop a bias if you reuse them, the learning bias. But still, in this case, they're so hard to find and hard to commit. I think it's a trade-off you should do. And then once you understand, you can prepare to acquire them and use multiple sources. Don't just go and believe if you drop a post on LinkedIn or whatever social media channel that will do the magic. No, it doesn't work with partnerships like that tour guide for the Van Gogh Museum. Work with referrals. That works very well for us. Ask our panel, do you know someone? We always feel, or it's one of our standard procedure when we have to fill hard to get profiles, asking people, do you know someone? And around several corners, you always come to the right people. And then once you have them, you need to build trust, and you need to tell them why you do this. Be transparent, and you tell them what you do with the results. Incentivize them like generously, or it's not always money, but it's often money. Just make sure they don't feel like they are getting used, and that kind of this playbook should help you to get through your grassroots approaches yourself. Now, the other approach, I call this private pool or private panel. So you build your own database of users. This investment, this is necessary if you have a recurring need to do user research, not these one-offs. And I want to show you this based on the customer we have. It's a customer in the medical field. It's called Ipsomed. They build like for diabetes patients primarily, and also for other types, pumps and injection devices for insulin. And a few years ago, they came to us. We could fulfill like one study, but the challenges are like, I don't know whether you're familiar, but there is like diabetes type 1 and type 2. And type 1 is very rare, and type 2 is more common, but they are mostly like because they need people injecting insulin, and those are primarily type 1. Super low incidence rate, so it's like 20 of 100,000. Feel that, and now imagine how hard this is to find. So, and even further challenge is, they have like physical devices to test, you know, and so you cannot do a remote test. They have to come to their premises to do the test, so that even cuts it further down. And bottom line, they kept on coming back, can you help us? And after like a couple of requests, like we have no chance. I mean, we have a big pool of test users, but this is so rare, and your study design is so complex. We need to solve this with a private pool. And that's when we came together and built, we have like this private pool version where we can actually kind of co-brand and shape it according to your need with your visuals and your copy. a sign-up page, you have your own private panel, and then we help them fill the pool so they can kind of do frictionless and regular recruitment in 3 locations. And how did we fill the pool? And that's not something they just tell us, please do. It's a collaboration between them and us. And what we first did is we used that referral approach. We went in our public pool and asked, again, screened diabetes patients, and we asked, who do you know who has diabetes in your family? Friends, please bring them to us. So we did a lot of through our own channels. Then we also worked with them to go on like social media channels. This is an Instagram post. We started to acquire them there. Ypsomed made a landing page on their own, on their website. This is a very important channel because it's their home turf, you know. But then from there, they drive them into our sign-up page where we manage their panelists and let them access for recruitment. And last but not least, is also like if you go to this support groups or institutions around a topic there in every city or in every country. There is a diabetes group in Fribourg. This is a canton of Switzerland. And so we really do all these different approaches. And as a result, we managed across 3 locations, 500 approximately, to get them in Switzerland, Germany, and UK. And it's not thousands, I mean, 10,000s, but enough for them to have to be capable to recruit regularly through our private pool. And the thing is, why is this enough? To kind of because they're highly motivated. These people care and they want to improve their life. That's why they are more interested. Their incentive is to improve their condition, health condition, have easier devices, etc. That's why they're also highly motivated. So these are the 2 approaches: grassroots, one-offs, and for recurring. You don't need to use the test and private pool. Of course, it would be nice, but there are other solutions. You can build your own database, but there's so many good systems out there. I don't think you should build anything on your own. You should work with a partner. And what's also important to add, sometimes user researchers are very a bit stubborn, or they want to do it by the book and have a very high standards of how the study design needs to be. You need to be flexible with this type of groups. You may be very thorough when you do consumer research, but with this, you need to come towards the participants. I mean, yes, if you want to do an on-site, I still recommend just do it if there is a very strong need, like there are physical devices. It's like a medical device. It's a machine. It's a complex device, whatever. Or you need to, like here, focus group, bring people together, because here you find it's better. You're in a face-to-face, or you have to taste something, whatever. But otherwise, then go towards remote. It's just much easier. I don't need to explain you the advantages of remote, but it's just, as a recruitment company, it's so much easier to find you the right participants from a much larger pool than the one location where we can only look 20 kilometers or 30 kilometers around it, you know. And but goes even further. Like sometimes it just makes sense to go home, not because you want to do like contextual inquiry or whatever, but like, let's say elderly or parents of children, they cannot come with the whole group of people to your location or whatever. So go home to them, do in-home research, meet them where they are. Then that's also a way they're way more available to participate because it's convenient for them. And last but not least, if it's really impossible or you don't have the budget or for whatever reason, this is my kind of last topic. I call this the no user research. It's one way is the manual way. You do expert reviews. I'm not sure how familiar you are, but when I started, that was a big thing. Also a statement from the Norman Nielsen group, or Nielsen Norman group. Expert reviews involved analysis of the design by UX experts. So the UX expert puts themselves into the shoe of the users and tries to identify usability problems and strengths. So this is an expert review regarding a usability test for like an interview that's probably a bit more difficult or cannot be done, but that's specific a method for usability testing. You then use some heuristics. Here are 10 typical, and they try to find usability problems according to all those heuristics. A UX expert understands those, or at least has heard of it. And that's a good way with sort of, all you need is a test object, test scenarios, and the UX expert to run through it, and you can solve it without including any users as such. Another thing which I'm kind of getting more and more into is this AI-based sort of user simulations. It's also a topic I'm curious to know your opinion, of course, but with the launch of ChatGPT, I saw two interesting things. So very quickly, someone launched the synthetic users. I have heard about this quite a while. So do you really always need to, I call this create organic data by talking to real humans? Can you simulate this? And it's kind of interesting. When I tried it, it was also sort of felt a bit weird and a bit quote unquote useless, but I'm sure this is an improvement. But you can kind of simulate interviews. You compose an interview questionnaire, you define your target group, and then it starts to answer your interview questions, and basically as if you would talk to a real human. Check it out. But yeah, the other super interesting paper is it's from Harvard Business School and Microsoft using ChatGPT for market research. This is instead of running a survey against real users, you kind of prompt ChatGPT to generate survey data and to kind of answer not your survey, but you ask it in a way so you generate those responses. And it's kind of tricky, and when I tried it, it didn't work so well, but they did it quite thorough, and in their case it worked. But they benchmarked it towards like a standardized survey, and the results were stunningly close. Like all these behavioral things the market researchers know, like price sensitivity or whatever, they could simulate that. And so the question is, yeah, hard to get participants. Is this eventually something we do simulate with these things? We kind of generate synthetic data, or is the future going to be a hybrid? So basically you have, let's say 20% is organic, and then you kind of have a feel about the response type or where it's heading to, and then the rest you kind of do with synthetic data or vice versa. So very interesting. Time will tell. But yeah, again, it's a no user approach. All you need to do is being an expert in prompting ChatGPT or whatever tool you want to use.